Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how to modify a cement mixer and use it for rolling your stars. I've done this before and it works really nice for rolling stars, and unfortunately I loaned it to a friend, and he likes it so much that I'm going to have to make him one in order to get mine back. So you're in luck. You get to watch me watch what we do for that. And I guess the whole thing will be under $200, so that's a pretty good deal for a star roller, and it has a large capacity, and it works great. So here we go. I'll show you all the steps.
Okay, so this is what I'm using. It's by Central Machinery. It's a 1 1/4 cubic foot, so it's not a huge one, and you really don't need a large one in order to do this. And I purchased it from Harbor Freight, and I believe it was $169 plus tax. And so let's open it up and see what we have. Okay, so this is what we have in the box. It's hard to believe once you see this that this fit in a box this size, but let's take some of the stuff out and show you what it looks like. Alright, so here's what it looks like out of the box. Lots of pieces. Lots of hardware. And the motor assembly, of course, is the heaviest part of the entire thing. It probably weighs more than everything else combined. And let's get started. See if we can get this thing together. Okay, so I've got the main stand put together, and next we'll start assembling the lower bowl and get that in place. Now, one thing you'll notice are these blades, and those will be leaving off of it. That is one modification that we do. We don't include that in the bowl. So let's see if we can get this together. So the lower bowl just slides down into the uprights, and the side that the motor will be on goes on the wheel side. So I haven't put bolts in there yet. Okay, so next I put this index plate on, and then attached the handle with a little spring here, and this springs in and out and allows you to raise and lower it. And then when it gets to the notches, it clicks itself in place. And next on there, you have to put the handle on it, and this just is a handle to help you pick it up and move it around. Alright, so that's it for that end. Okay, so now that's the whole base, this end with the handle and the bottom bowl. Alright, on to the next thing. Okay, so normally we would be putting this other section on, but we're actually going to be, I'm not going to put that on there yet, and I'm going to go ahead and put the motor and stuff on, and once I get all that done, I'm going to come back and we're going to take these bolts out here and put some smooth top ones in so it doesn't catch media and you know, your stars as it's rolling. So that's the modification we'll do inside there next. And like I said, we're not installing those little mixing paddles, so those will remain out, so it'll just be empty inside. Alright, change of plan. I'm gonna wait to do the motor so I can finish putting all this together. But here's what I'm gonna use to replace the bolts that are in there currently. And the empty holes is where those paddles would have mounted if that was going to be used. but we're not using those. So I'm going to have to drill these out a little bit because of that shoulder. And I'm going to replace all of these with that, and then we'll get on to the next step. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got all of those carriage bolts in there after I watered out the holes and got the old bolts out. So now we've got a smoother surface in there for the stars to move around on. Next, I'm going to scuff up the inside of this and the inside of the top of it, and I'm going to paint it white so you can actually see the stars better when you're rolling. It really helps you when it's a lighter color inside. So that's what I'm going to do next, and I'll drag it outside and do that. Okay, so I'm using a little foam pad that has a 60 grit finish on it, and that's what I'm using to scuff it up, and so you can tell that it's no longer bright like it was. So I'll do the other side. Okay, so I've put the first coat of white paint inside the drum, and I covered up the areas where the gear is, so I didn't get paint on that. And I'm not worried about painting all the way to the edge, just the inside is all, because we're going that inside red there will not show up when it's put together. So I'll let this dry, put some more paint on it, and then I will put the thing together and show you that. Oh yeah, I'm using a Krylon Fusion paint. It is paint and primer in one, and I'm using a matte finish. Okay, so while I'm painting, I'm going to go ahead and paint the outside of the tub. So I've taped up the areas I don't want this paint on. And what I'm putting on it is this Rust-Oleum undercoating, and it's a rubberized material, and it just helps deaden the sound. And it gets pretty noisy when you're doing this, and every little bit helps. Now some people actually will change the gears to make it not as noisy, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and paint it and let you see what it looks like. Okay, so here's a coating of the black under coating that I put on it. It's a little cold out here to be actually painting, so the finish is not great, but doesn't matter as long as it's coated. And I actually bought a lot of this material. I see a spot I need to get under there. I actually bought some of this material to put on the screws in my magazine when I built it, so it's rubberized. Anyway, this will greatly cut down on the noise, which is a blessing when you're doing this for several hours and listening to it. Anyway, I'll show you the next step. Okay, here is the cement mixer with the paint all dried. Looks pretty good. So you can see that inside where the two halves meet, there's a little depression there, and that needs to be filled in so your composition doesn't pack in there, so you can clean it easily. So what I'm going to do is mix up some epoxy that I have, and it's two parts, but here's the jug. It's a Magic Sculpt. There's a hardener and a resin, and just happen to have that, so I'm going to use it. But you can use caulking if you need to, and smooth that out, and that should work fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Once that's done, I should be able to put the motor on, and I've already tested the motor, so I do know that it works. But anyway, so this looks turned out really nice, I thought. Somehow got a little dent in it. I think that was in the box that way. Anyway, all right, let me get that mixed up. I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is a, like I said, this is a two-part epoxy, and you put equal amount hardener, equal amount resin, and This will actually mix up and be fairly white looking, and when it's cured, it'll be white, and you can actually smooth it out if your finger is wet. So I'll show you that in a minute. Let me get this mixed up, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so I've got this pretty well mixed up. I'll make it into a little small string or rope, and I'll start pressing it in there, and then come back and smooth it out once I get all that done, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've got a little bead running around there in the crack. I haven't smoothed it out yet, but I went ahead and run a little bead all the way around it, and I'm going to smooth it out. And this stuff sets up, I don't know, pretty hard within an hour, but it doesn't cure for, 24 hours. But it's rock hard when it does, and you can actually paint over top of it if you see a need to after it dries. So let me get that smoothed out. I'll show you what it looks like. Alrighty, so I've got this put in there, and you can see it's filled it in nicely. It really fills it in, and really, if you kept on smoothing it, you'd probably get it perfectly smooth. And this stuff is sandable, so once it dries, you could actually sand it even. So, but that's certainly good enough. And you may need a little more paint in there after everything dries, but right now I think it looks pretty good. So next, I guess while that's drying, I will go ahead and put the motor on, and that will pretty much wrap this up, I believe. So let's make sure this thing will work. Let me get the motor on it. Alrighty, so got the motor put on it, and it's ready to go. I'll switch it on. You can see what it does. So it's fairly quiet. Like I said, some people will change out the gear to even make it quieter, but really that's not too bad. So I'm not sure why it has one spot. Well, nothing's balanced well, and I'm sure it's cylindrical, so that's the one reason it's making a little bit of weird noise. But just to recap, the changes we made from a standard cement mixer. We first replaced the bolts holding it the base in, and used carriage bolts for that. So they're rounded heads on it. And we had to drill that out a little bit to get those in there. And then we painted the inside white. We of course left off the little blades that come with it. Painted the inside white. Painted the outside with a black undercoating, rubberized. And then we put some, in this case, some epoxy to fill in the little gap in between the top and bottom halves. And remember, you can use caulking for that. Just something to fill it in so you're not catching, so it's not catching all your compound in there and just making a mess. It just makes it a lot easier to clean out. So when I get mine back, I will actually do a little video on rolling stars, but I don't want to mess this one up before I give it to my friend. So anyway, I will leave it at that, and we'll see you on the next video. And please subscribe if you haven't, and I appreciate the views. Talk to you later. Thanks.